Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today I'm going to talk about the rest of the week that was in pro wrestling. So that's going to be AEW Rampage, TNA Wrestling, and WWE SmackDown. Now, the reason for this order is as such. Rampage got moved to Wednesday right after Dynamite because of the NCAA tournament, so it was not shown on Friday. And then Saturday, no Collision, because that was just preempted by the tournament. AEW decided to just let it go. So, let's start it off with AEW Rampage, where the beginning saw the end of the Adam Copeland Christian Cage I Quit match, in which Copeland won the TNT title with a little help. Not going to fully go over that because I went over that in my Dynamite review, because that was the main event of Dynamite and the end came on Rampage, which I'm going to say that was very creative by AEW. Definitely a fine choice. We then go back, pretty much start off classic Rampage with a promo from Bullet Club Gold. That's Jay White, Austin, and Colton Gunn. Pretty much saying, look, Acclaimed, you want us to show up. We're not going to do it in this shit town of Toronto. If anything, we saved Darby Allin's life. And for the time we were associated with the Acclaimed, we took the back seat. And we didn't know how you didn't see this one coming. And now we don't need you anymore. We gave Sting's bat a makeover, painted it all gold, which that looks awesome. And so sorry, Darby, but you're not climbing Everest this year. Maybe next year. But Darby, I'm bigger than Everest. Oh. So, real fired up promo from Bullet Club Gold, solidifying their reason for breaking up with the Acclaimed, in which, yeah, that was much needed. We then get the answer from 2/3 of the Acclaimed, minus Billy Gunn. They pretty much say, look, we should have known this was coming. Bullet Club Gold, our former partners, jumped us last week. Billy Gunn isn't here because he isn't cleared to travel, which, that's a shame. And I think the same. I didn't even want you guys to show up tonight. Acclaimed, but the Acclaimed did show up. And we know you're scared of us. You're hiding behind your ass boys, Jay White. And as we're gonna... We're done hiding this. And if you're smart, we're gonna give you a one-way trip to anywhere you want so that you don't show back up on Dynamite. And the only stupid person will piss off the Acclaimed. You got 3 guys with no balls that didn't show up. And the tiny part of you that knows you aren't elite enough. You weren't even good enough to make it to the tag team tournament. And you lost, Jay White, you lost to a hobbled MJF with one leg. Stop blaming everyone else for your shortcomings. And take a look in the mirror. We never needed you. The only gang we needed was these fans all along. Because everyone loves the Acclaimed. This breakup was definitely needed between these two groups. As much as I liked the idea behind them going after the Undisputed Kingdom, they didn't really do that. So the point of them getting together was pretty much null and void. So them feuding with each other makes a whole lot more sense. So our first matchup of the evening, technically the first matchup, we did see the end of, the TNT title match at the beginning of the show, but this is our first official Rampage match, and it's the wild card match to see who moves on in the tag title tournament. We got Best Friends being represented by Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy, taking on Kyle Fletcher and Powerhouse Hobbs of the Don Callis family. And honestly, everyone got their good stuff in. A lot of power versus kind of finesse for Hobbs and Orange Cassidy. I'd love to see a one-on-one between those two. Orange Cassidy pretty much missing on all kinds of orange punches early on. Eventually hits a beach break with Trent hitting a stomp, but only gets 2. Cassidy misses on an orange punch, which leads to a Fletcher pile driver, which only gets a 2 count. Fletcher going for a superplex, that gets blocked. Big old tornado DDT into a spear from Trent and an orange punch. And your winners, moving on to the next round, are the Best Friends. And I'm going to say this, I kind of hope they win the whole thing. Like, for me, they more than deserved it. So, yeah, we'll see what happens from there. Next up, we got the shortest match of the evening. We got Katsuyori Shibata taking on KM, if you remember him. Although he's going by Kevin Matthews, which, alright, full name now. This was the Katsuyori Shibata show, getting him pretty much in the sleeper, penalty kick, 1, 2, 3. Your winner, Katsuyori Shibata, getting him warmed up for his match against Will Ospreay this coming week. That's going to be awesome. Next we see Adam Copeland. He's backstage celebrating with the face members of the roster, which, nice little moment for Mr. Copeland. Next up, we got a very interesting matchup of power versus speed. You got Konosuke Takeshita taking on Asuka Rocky Romero. And Rocky Romero pretty much gets advantage really early on. Definitely outspeeds Takeshita. But then Takeshita with a massive Blue Thunder Bomb, but only for a 2 count. Tries for the Falcon Arrow. That gets blocked into a roll-up for a 2 count. Takeshita with a big old clothesline, a massive elbow strike into a big old Falcon Arrow to pick up the win. God, I hope they got something interesting for Takeshita to do. I think it's more than time to put a title on him. And what better title than maybe the TNT title? I know Copeland just won, and I'm happy with that. I think Takeshita versus Copeland would be very, very interesting. And finally, we got our main event for Rampage, and it's a tag team street fight. As we got Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale taking on Sky Blue and Julia Hart. This was a very, very hard-hitting affair. Pretty much brought out the plunder right off the bat with chairs and kendo sticks, including a big old 4-way kendo stick duel, which was fun. We eventually get some table spots. Sky Blue hitting a cold blue through a table. That was gnarly looking. And then what is a street fight without the thumbtacks? Oh, you even got the mouth spot where Julia Hart put some thumbtacks into Chris Statlander's mouth and just That spot always gets me. Eventually we have a chair stack in which Willow Nightingale backdrops Sky Blue into him. Statlander whiffs on a 450. And then Julia Hart locks in the Heartless to pick up the submission win for her and Sky Blue. Definitely a very entertaining episode of Rampage. It definitely comes after a pretty stacked episode of Dynamite. And as a continuation, it was fun. Was it all that important? Not really. But it was definitely a very entertaining episode. So that was AEW Rampage. We now move on to TNA. We start off with the Mustafa Ali #1 contenders match for the X Division title. Now, they gave this a very specific name. I forget what they call it. But we first get Ali. He's on commentary, which that does make sense. We get our competitors. We got Leon Slater making his TNA debut, coming over from the UK. I believe he was in Rev Pro. Chris Bay, one half of the former tag team champions. Alan Angels. Jason Hoek of the Good Hands. Kevin Knight coming back from injury, more than likely kayfabe. And the surprise competitor that, pissed Ali off is Jake something, because he's like twice the size of everyone else. This was a dang good, chaotic X Division style matchup. We even saw Slater and Kevin Knight kind of become a tandem for a little bit. That was fun. Like I said, a great little multi-man matchup with the finish coming after an attempt to roll up and into the void, and your winner and the new #1 contender, Jake something. And of course, Ali isn't happy about it, so this feud is definitely going to be interesting. We then get a Dirty Dango style promo in which we see him pretty much fire Oleg Prudius and Alpha Bravo, kind of. I mean, that's the way I took it. It could obviously mean something else. Oleg then eventually just walks off with Dango pretty much saying, "I made you here." So, definitely the start of breakup of this weird triumvirate, but I don't know, I didn't think Oleg was long for this promotion. We then get a backstage interview from AJ Francis and Rich Swann, who are now a group, a tag team at least, in which they pretty much reveal, next week in the ring, we're going to reveal why we did what we did to Joe Hendry. So, we'll see what goes on from there. We then get a very strange Cody Deaner promo. Pretty much saying, last number of years, I haven't been myself at all. I've had failures to galore. I've placed a lot of that on a lot of people, but the real person to blame was me. The best decision I made was falling in love with pro wrestling, and the love and the passion you feel, I want it back. I lost it, and I need it back, and with your help, I'm gonna get it back. I'm no longer making the decisions here, you are. Which, nice little promo from Cody Deaner. He's definitely needed something else after the design imploded. And this brings out someone interesting. The Grizzled Young Veterans, who have a tag match coming up. And they pretty much just say, look, you think these people really care about you? You need to listen to us, the real veterans of this promotion. You need to quit. You need to give up. You offer nothing more to pro wrestling. As you stood in the ring on our time, now it's time to let the pros go to work. And now Cody Deaner starts to get out of the ring. He stops. Then he gets back in, gets back on the mic, says, I made a promise to these people. They decide what I do. Do you guys want me to leave? Boom. Or do you guys want me to stay? Hey! Then the veterans get back on. They pretty much say, don't you listen to them. Listen to us. Otherwise, we're going to do something that you're not going to enjoy. And Deaner finishes up. People have spoken. And then he takes some swings at the Grizzled Young Veterans. The numbers game is obviously too much. This brings out the opponents for the Grizzled Young Veterans. It's Alex Shelley and Kushida who make the save. Deaner then rolls out of the ring and I guess leaves because we don't really see him for this next matchup as the Grizzled Young Veterans take on the Time Splitters. And I'm going to say this, you don't really see much of the dissension in the ranks storyline going on with Shelley and Sabin in this match. Which, that's fine. I mean, there's some that happens. At one point you see one of the veterans push Shelley into Kushida on the apron. Otherwise, this was a dang good matchup between four really, really talented wrestlers. Eventually, Kushida does get in the hoverboard lock. Gibson tries to power out, eats a super kick from Shelley, who holds in the hoverboard lock, and your winners, the Time Splitters. Honestly, this was an awesome little matchup. I was hoping we'd see the Motor City Machine Guns versus the Grizzled Young Veterans, but apparently on April 1st, the Guns are free agents from TNA, so we'll see where they end up. We then get a sit-down interview with Hammerstone. Pretty much saying, look, this, my return to TNA has been a long time in the making. 2018 was my first Explosion match, in which, that's a neat little tie-in. I don't remember that. Explosion is pretty much the main event show to TNA's, Raw. Pretty much. Then he continues, I went all over. I conquered everywhere in the wrestling world. Everyone's been talking about Hammer for a long time. They even called me a big fish in a small pond. Well, now I've gone to a bigger pond. And what squashes nerves? Confidence. Oh, you think this is funny? I've been this close to beating Josh a couple of times. But the last one, I drank it up as a win. And I'm fast-tracking my way to the top of this promotion. And everybody knows I'm better than Josh. I proved that I'm smarter at the last pay-per-view. I've been breaking his confidence. Seeing me, I'll be a reminder to him of what happened to him. So, interesting little fired up promo from Hammer. Definitely going to be interesting to see how he and Josh Alexander interact in the coming months. Should be fun. Next up, we got the digital media title on the line as Crazy Steve defends against PCO. And honestly, this has been pretty much the greatest hits between these two. Some things were a little awkward, but then they brought out the plunder. Actually, no. Here's what happened. PCO hit the D-Animator on Crazy Steve. He's going for the PCO salt, but then who's coming out? It's Khan, and he's got a trash can full of weapons. He starts throwing the weapons in the ring. PCO with a big cannonball to the outside. And then PCO with some trash can shots to Khan. PCO then gets some chairs, sets them up spine up. But then Khan with an eye rake and pretty much body slams him into the chairs. Rolls PCO back in the ring. And with a roll up, your winner, still Digital Media Champion, it's Crazy Steve. I wouldn't mind a Big Khan Crazy Steve alliance. Because personally, that makes sense. Like, don't get me wrong. I like Steve as a big, as a kind of, I wouldn't want to say final boss, but at least like a big Saw villain. That you don't really know what's going to happen. But then he's also got the muscle. So I think that could be a fun little alliance. The next PCO Khan match, I do hope is Monsters Ball. Because that's the only way you're going to finish this. Next up, you got a Decay backstage promo. With them pretty much saying, champs, we got our eyes on you. We've got our contracted rematch for the titles. So we're coming after you. This brings in MK Ultra. They come down the steps. Oh yeah, this was pretty much filmed in a stairwell, which was interesting. With MK Ultra pretty much saying, look, this rematch is ours. We're first in line because we were the first ones they beat. And Rosemary chimes in pretty much saying, look, the only way to sell this is in the ring. So we'll see you next time. So, little, kind of retreading old ground, but I don't mind it. At least they're trying to earn their spot. Then we get a nice, short and sweet Eric Young promo from the stage. Pretty much going over what happened at Sacrifice and how Kaz cost him. And then pretty much saying, look, Kaz, you got my attention now, but you made a big mistake. You want to be rock and roll, that's fine. So at Rebellion, it's going to be me versus you, Full Metal Mayhem. It has definitely been a while since I've seen a Full Metal Mayhem match. And what that is, it's pretty much a TLC match without climbing the ladders. And you could pretty much use anything metal. Like back in the day, they would legit use a kitchen sink as a weapon. So, hopefully they bring that back. That match should be absolutely nuts. This next match, you got the third match in TNA of Ash by Elegance. That's the former Dana Brooke. As she takes on Saliza Sparks. I hope I am pronouncing that right. And while Miss Sparks did get some offense in, this was the Ash by Elegance show, including a big old rarefied air moonsault. Post-match, Ash continues the attack on Sparks because she didn't, kiss her hand in respect or whatever. Goes for another rarefied air. Out comes Xia Brookside to make the save. She and Ash have a little stare down to end the segment. So Ash versus Xia Brookside. I could see that being pretty darn good. And we get a Nick Nemeth in-ring promo saying, when I got into TNA, I slid in the ring and got face-to-face with the world champ. I made my intentions clear. I want to become TNA world champ. And no matter where I've been, I've got nothing but respect for the rest of this locker room to not just go for get the title shot. I beat Steve Maclin, the former world champion in his own right. And as for leaving TNA, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to stay. I'm happy to keep grinding till my time was right. And who was the one who couldn't wait? It was Moose. He doesn't get it. Now I have a shot at the title, and I'm not letting that opportunity slip through my fingers. This brings out Moose and the System. They get in the ring, with Moose pretty much saying, I beat some of the best. If anyone knows anything about your career, one thing you've never been able to do is beat the System. Ooh. Ooh, those are some wicked shots by Moose. That match at Rebellion is going to be a whole lot of fun. I can't wait. And finally, we got our second of 2 title matches of the evening, as the Knockouts title is on the line, as Tasha Steelz challenges Jordynne Grace. And honestly, this match started out a little wonky. Like maybe Steelz was... I'm not going to say not up to par, because she's a great wrestler. But this was definitely the Jordynne Grace show to start. Eventually, Steele did get into it a little, including blocking, getting out of a Juggernaut driver. She even got a triangle in, but Grace then just powerbombed her. Steele then tries for a sliced bread. That gets blocked. Jordynne Grace tries for a Vader bomb. That gets... And Tasha Steelz moves out of the way. Eventually gets the sliced bread, but only for 2. And Tasha goes up top, and Grace just tosses her back into the ring. Jordynne Grace tries for the Bulldog. That gets blocked. Steele tries for a blackout. That gets blocked as well. Jordynne Grace countered a cutter. Eventually gets the Juggernaut driver to win and retain her title. This was a very, very good matchup. I hope y'all give it a chance and go check it out whenever you have the time, because I love this match. It did start a little slow at first, but eventually it did get into the next gear. So, nice fun bout to end TNA. And then we move to Friday Night SmackDown. We start off with Santos Escobar taking on Rey Mysterio. And this is, if I may quote Kalisto, some good lucha things. Like, this was great. This was everything I hoped it would be and more. However, as Rey Mysterio was going for the kill for the 619, out comes a masked man. He has another Rey Mysterio mask on that distracts Rey for a minute. Gets hit with a Phantom Driver, so your winner, Santos Escobar. And who was the man under the mask? Who else could it be? It's Dirty Dom, the bastard son. So, yeah, that definitely, that definitely put some plans into action for WrestleMania. Like, I know we did the Dom Rey Mysterio match last year, which was a lot of fun. Maybe we finally do hair versus mask? Although we've had seen Rey Mysterio's face before, back in WCW. So, yeah, we'll definitely see about that. I'm still hoping we'll get some sort of LWO versus Legado del Fantasma match for WrestleMania. But I'd be happy for another Dom versus Rey. So next, we go backstage. We see Naomi talking with Bayley. With Bayley saying, "Oh, thank you for helping me last week. I thought you guys didn't like me." It's like, look, I know I've only just come back, but I've seen what Damage Control has been doing to y'all, ever since you got here. Then in comes Bianca Belair, who pretty much says to Naomi, seriously? Obviously she doesn't mean it with me, but you do mean it with Naomi? You're not sorry for what you did, but you're sorry because all of this is now catching up to you. So then Bianca grabs Naomi, they walk off. Then it cuts to Naomi and Bianca kind of walking backstage past Cody Rhodes signing autographs, which, that's kind of funny. With Bianca pretty much saying to Naomi, look, I don't want to get mixed up in this. I cannot change the past. But you cannot do this alone. Like you could have. Right, Bianca? Kind of calling out Bianca Belair's handling of Damage Control. Although, she did handle them on like a weekly basis. So, yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. We now go to our first of two quarterfinal matches where the overall winners go into the WrestleMania ladder match for the tag titles. As we got 8 Down Under, that's Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, taking on the OC, Gallows and Anderson. And I gotta tell you, I've missed seeing Gallows and Anderson on TV. They are some of the most underrated wrestlers on the roster. And this was pretty much the OC highlight reel, including Gallows hitting a couple of big choke slams. They were on such a roll, they were about to hit the Magic Killer, but Waller gets Theory off of their shoulders. And then Theory with the roll-up for the winners for 8 Down Under. And they're going to face somebody in the next round. We'll see. We'll get it. We'll get there. We then get a Braun Breaker hype video, which that was honestly really cool. Definitely excited to see what they do with Braun Breaker. I'm not really sure what they do at first. Could be just about anything. We then get a video recap of Roman Reigns' interview on the Pat McAfee show from this week, hyping up WrestleMania. And if you haven't seen that interview, honestly, go watch it. It was pretty entertaining. We then move on to the women's division as Naomi takes on women's champion Io Sky. And this match, again, a little slow to start, but eventually it did get turned up to 10. Including Naomi hitting a big old heat seeker on Io. This brings out the rest of Damage Control, distracting Naomi long enough for Io Sky to hit the stomp and the over the moonsault to pick up the win. Damage Control continues the attack on Naomi. Then out comes Bianca Belair, which, very surprising to see her out here. She then tries to fight off the numbers for Damage Control, but she is way outnumbered. And Damage Control leave both ladies laying, including a missed shot from Asuka to Naomi, which, that was definitely very interesting. We then get Cody Rhodes and Nick Aldis. They're just talking backstage. I didn't really hear what they said, but they're definitely setting something up. We then get our first look at Jade Cargill, as it's announced she will be debuting on SmackDown next week. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. We then get to see Naomi and Bianca Belair as they're trying to wash out her eyes from the mist. Bianca's like, trainer, get me a towel, get me something. Then out from the back, is Tiffany Stratton says, Naomi, that's a good look on you. Tee, and then walks away. I'm going to say this, Tiffany Stratton, maybe a little early for a call-up, but I think she's going to have some big plans for her come post-WrestleMania, which that's going to be a lot of fun. We then get to see Kevin Owens with Nick Aldis. They're kind of palling around with Kevin Owens saying what's been going on Logan Paul's podcast. In comes Pretty Deadly, who are trying to reinsert themselves into the tag title tournament. And then they see Kevin Owens and they're like, what are you doing in here? We don't want you in here. And then Kevin Owens issues the challenge for Pretty Deadly, and they'll find a partner. And Pretty Deadly like, who's gonna want to partner with you? Who's gonna want to do that? And Kevin Owens just points. Camera pans. It's Randy Orton. And I believe it was Alton Prince with the best reaction I've ever seen. He's like, like he just got jump scared. That was hilarious. And then Orton's like, yeah, well, I got some time to kill before WrestleMania, so we'll see you next week. And then Kevin Owens and Randy Orton start to walk off. Then Pretty Deadly start arguing with Nick Aldis a little bit. And then Aldis is like, a little word of advice. Don't stand too close. And they're like, what? Both of them get slapped by Kevin Owens, who's off screen saying, I got them both again. Dude, this is great. That's funny as heck. I do wish they'd do something a bit more with Pretty Deadly, because they are a really entertaining tag team. So, yeah, that was awesome. We then see AJ Styles. He's at his house, and it looks like he's been done juicing or whatever. I'm sure he's just training. I don't think he's juicing at all. Then we just hear bunch of car honking on the outside. So AJ Styles walks to the outside, and apparently AJ Styles still thinks it's Christmas because he's still got his wreaths on his door. I don't know. You do you, AJ Styles. I'm not complaining. So then, who do we see outside honking the horn? Is LA Knight. Yeah, and they immediately get into a fight. And that fight runs into the WWE official cameraman. So then we cut to police footage, which is a great little touch. And we see LA Knight getting taken from the Styles residence. At one point, we see AJ Styles kind of try to get up into LA Knight's face. The officer kind of slams AJ Styles down. I thought he was going to get arrested too, but they eventually let him go. And then LA Knight gets put into the back of the squad car and gets taken downtown, if you will. It is later revealed that he has been released and he will make WrestleMania. I kind of would have hoped they kind of would keep that story going. Like maybe, AJ did press charges, so now he's going to be in prison for a while. And will he make it to WrestleMania? Having a big old entrance with maybe some police force for WrestleMania. I thought that would have been cool. Like maybe you see him come out of the police car with, his hands chained, his legs chained, in prison orange. I don't know. I think that would have added to at least my appeal for LA Knight. Because personally for me, I don't really dig him. Anyway, we go to our other half of the tag team title tournament as the Street Profits take on AOP. It is so good to see the Authors of Pain back and them taking on the Street Profits. Obviously not the freshest of matchups. But honestly, this was a really, really fun matchup. Like, you obviously had the power of AOP, Montez Ford kind of getting into stuff, but ultimately being overpowered. That brings in Dawkins, who at one point pounces, I think it was Akam, which that was an awesome move. AOP go for the final chapter, but that only gets them a 2 count. At one point, Ford does toss one of the Authors of Pain over the top. Angelo Dawkins with the roll-up for the 1, 2, 3. So your winners, moving on to the next round, are the Street Profits. Now, what I'm thinking for this, because if you've seen my last card prediction videos, I have the entire Final Testament versus Street Profits and Lashley in 6-man action. So I'm thinking AOP cost the Street Profits their match next week against A-Town Down Under. And then we'll get that set up for WrestleMania. Fingers crossed. We then cut backstage. It's Paul Heyman. He's on the phone. He says, yeah, Cody's here, and he's all alone, just like he said. Roman, your public awaits. So we see him get out of the big Roman get out of the big SUV. They're working out of the car lot. And we start with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman in the ring. Pretty much saying, look, Wiseman made a promise. I kept my word. We're a man of our word. There's no bloodline here. So bring out Cody so we can handle business. Then we see Cody Rhodes in the back. At this point, I thought we would have seen Jimmy and Solo jump Cody. But he comes out to his music. He gets on the mic. He says, well, here we are. We kept our word. We're here alone. How about you? As a man of my word to you, you believed him. You're a fool. Now hear me out. You're obviously not fit for this job. To be champion. You're an idiot. You start thinking with your head. You've aligned with Seth, Little J. And where's Seth right now? Is he stuck in traffic? He's shown his true colors. But he wants to be your shield. And obviously, me and Seth have history in the Shield, and we didn't exactly do good guy things. But we obviously had a bond, and then eventually he stabbed me in the back. And what do you think he's going to do to you at WrestleMania? And Cody retorts, yeah, we all remember the Shield. But who was the first team to beat the Shield? I believe the last name was Rhodes. Now, a little caveat to that. Did a little research. I do remember that tag match where it was Cody and Goldust, his brother, Dustin, versus Seth and Roman for the tag titles. And obviously Cody and Dustin did beat them. However, that was not the first team to beat the Shield. I forget who it was, but it was definitely not them. Sorry, Cody, but gotta call you out on that. Then Cody looks down at his cuffs, saying, oh, I got my Bullet cuffs on. Obviously referencing his time in Bullet Club. Roman retorts, look, Bloodline isn't just a faction, it's a family about us all. Now, can I trust Seth? Seth might hate me, but I know one thing he hates even more, and that's you. So here's the question. Can you trust The Rock at WrestleMania? So, this is obviously now going back to Cody. So now I'm slightly confused. Who is really in charge here at the Bloodline? Is it our tribal chief Roman Reigns? Or is it the final boss, The Rock? And Roman Reigns retorts, That's old. That's all? That's all you got? Spoken and spun like a politician, and that's all you do. Make promises, but you never deliver. And that is why you're always going to be number 2. Number 2 isn't bad at all. But that's all you're going to ever be. Because I'm going to be number 1 forever. And let's all be real. We both grew up in this industry. And this next generation will obviously... this is going back to Cody. And I've conceded to the idea that the next generation to grow up wanting to be the next Roman Reigns. And I'm the greatest number 2, huh? Well, when it comes to WrestleMania, I'm not the 2. I'm the 1 to beat you. So, interesting low finish. Cody then extends his hand to Roman Reigns. Roman scoffs at it, goes to leave. While on the apron, he shakes Paul Heyman's hand, which is a nice throwback to pre-WrestleMania 39, where Roman extended his hand and Cody did not shake it. Then Roman kind of goes up the ramp. Then you hear a woman, who was not part of the show, but is a part of the crowd, and you can clearly hear her say, "Oh, you need a group full of strangers to acknowledge you." Like, she's got a point. Anyway, so we see Roman, stops at the bottom of the ramp, turns around, snaps his fingers. From the crowd, you see Jimmy Uso and Solo. They kind of go to Roman's side. It looks like they're about to jump him. Then Cody, standing in the ring confidently, as he waits for Jey Uso and Seth Rollins to arrive from the crowd. They get into the ring with Cody, and they have a stare down. Not a bad ending segment to the SmackDown before the SmackDown before the SmackDown before WrestleMania. But, yeah, I felt like that promo could be a little bit better. But I think they're saving their real ace stuff for, the SmackDown before WrestleMania. Which, I don't mind at all. It really wasn't a bad promo. It needed a little bit more spice, I think. Just a little bit. Anyway, yeah, that's it for me. A very enjoyable week of pro wrestling. As we are now less than 2 weeks away from WrestleMania. So, this Friday, it's going to be Raw, NWA Power, AEW Dynamite. That's going to be Friday. Next Monday, it's going to be TNA Wrestling, SmackDown, Rampage, and Collision. Going to be covering those. And then the Wednesday after that, it's going to be my WrestleMania predictions. I hope you're staying tuned for that, because it's going to be a fun one. So until next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.